Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be replacing the steering box on the Camaro, and it's just going to be a little step-by-step how-to on how to get the box out and get it replaced here. So as you know, I had my WS6 Trans Am steering box in this car, and if you follow my last videos where I painted the engine bay, I went and I changed the seals and everything in the box because I had a leak from the Pitman Arm seal. Now what I ended up doing was, after I put the box back in, it's still not leaking, everything was fine, but I had a problem where there was a lot of slack in the steering. Basically there was a dead spot on center, and what I realized what had happened was when I reassembled the box, the nut here on the input shaft, I counted the threads and I installed it back the exact same way, which what I should have did was, you're supposed to tighten this nut down till it's snug and then back it off about half an inch before you tighten the lock nut. Now I didn't do that, I just put it back the way it was. So when I did that, I introduced a lot more slack into the steering than what was already there because it wasn't properly adjusted. So to fix this, basically, I would have had to pull the box out. I tried getting it from inside the car, just twisting this nut on the end here, but I can only get it so far and then I couldn't reach it anymore, so I had to pull the box out anyway to adjust this. So what I ended up doing was I pulled out the box, and I already had an A1 Cardone reman box lying around because in case this didn't work, I was just going to swap the A1 box in there. But when I ended up doing that, this box here, this is the WS6 box that I resealed. This isn't the A1 box. I just have it in the box here. So what I did was I just pulled this one out and I put in the reman box. I had the car lined, and the steering is just absolutely terrible with the reman A1 Cardone box. It is the 2.5 lock-to-lock box, but I mean the adjustment, it's just horrible. I mean, the thing has no steering feel. It feels like you're driving like an 80s Cadillac. You could turn the thing with your pinky. It's terrible. The steering is just dead. Feels like playing a video game. So right now I'm going to pull this A1 box out and put my factory 87 Z28 WS6, whatever you want to call it, box back in, which I know has the good tight steering and now is properly adjusted and leak free. So I'm just going to go step by step through this process of pulling the box out and replacing it for those of you who have never done this before. So just a quick overview here. These are the tools I will be using. I got my 1/2-inch impact gun, Pitman Arm puller, 33mm socket for the Pitman Arm nut. The lines on the top of the box are actually an 18mm. I don't have an 18mm lying around anywhere, so I'm going to try between a 19 flare wrench, an adjustable, and some vice grips. Hopefully I could get those lines off. They should come off because I had them off when I just put the A1 box in like a month ago, so they shouldn't be too tight. I have an 11mm here on an extension to get the steering shaft off the box, flathead for the intake, pry bar to get the steering shaft off. Just cutters here to cut the zip ties holding the lower and upper portion of my fan shroud in, flathead to knock on the steering shaft, and the hammer obviously to hammer the thing back on. So I already went ahead, as you can see from my intro, I got the intake off and I just popped off the steering shaft. So right now I'm just going to pull the fans out, move them to the side because they are going to have to be out of the way to make room for the box to come out, and then I will proceed to removing the nut off the Pitman arm. And I'm just going to remove the nut, put the puller on, pop this off, slide it over. I'm not going to actually remove it from the center link itself, and then from there I'll go up top, remove the 3 bolts going through the side with my impact gun. I don't have to take the tire off, I can get in there, and that's really it. I mean, then it'll come right out, and I got my pan under here to catch the fluid. Alright, so both my lines are off here. Now, one thing I just remembered as I was pulling these off, I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but my power steering hose, Some of you may be wondering, for the LS swap, this is a factory 3rd gen power steering hose. The way I got it to work was, well, for one thing, to clear the power steering pulley, I just went ahead and I bent it around the curve a little more to give it a different angle, so you can see when it's in, it just kind of curls around the pump there. And then as far as the one on the LS pump end, I did the same thing. I had to change the bend to give it clearance to come out. Basically, you're putting this hose on without the pulley on, and then you press the pulley on after. But I just bent it a different way so it would clear the pump, and it fits. The fittings are the same size, so the 3rd gen fitting screws right into the LS1 pump, so you don't have to change any fittings. All you got to do is just kind of tweak it a little bit, get it to fit right, and make sure it's not rubbing. But that's the easiest way to get the power steering. You don't have to make your own lines or have any custom lines made. Just get a regular 3rd gen hose and just kind of take a tubing bender like for brake lines and stick it in a vise and just tweak it the way you need it, and go back and forth to the car till you get it how you want it. So anyways, the lines are off. I got the Pitman arm off. I got the fans out of the way, so now the box will have room to come out through the top here. And now I'm just going to go and remove the 3 5/8 bolts in here, and then I should be able to lift the box out. Alright, so that is it. The box is out. So here's the remanned A1 Cardone box. I'm going to just go and put my factory 3rd gen box back in now. And one thing I forgot when I was going through the tools, you also need a 19, at least for my Pitman arm puller, that's a 19 millimeter. And then for the 3 bolts that are holding the steering box in, that's a 5/8, and I'm just using a swivel here. So I'm not going to replace the O-rings on here because I put the new ones on when I put the A1 box in, so those could stay. Now I'm just going to go and drop in the 3rd gen box. Alright, so the box is mounted. Basically what I just did to make it a little easier when I dropped it in, I just kind of lined it up with the Pitman arm here just so it can hold it to keep it from falling forward and falling out through the bottom here. And then I went and just put a bolt through the side and jiggle this around and hit it lightly with the gun until it caught. And then once one was lined up, I just went and put the other 2 in and tightened everything down. So now I'm going to just get the Pitman arm on and then go to the lines up top and the steering shaft. Alright, steering shaft is on. Now just a little tip, the easiest way to get this back on, if it's tight and you can't just slide it on by hand, use a little angled pry bar here and just set it up right behind the rag joint and just tap it with a hammer. After you have it lined up, there's a flat spot, so you can only put it on one way. There's a flat spot where the bolt goes through, and then a few taps and this thing just slides right on. Put the bolt through and you're done. Also, another thing to note here, when you're putting the Pitman arm back on, if you can see, there's these 3 notches. There's like one here, one in the back, and the same thing on the Pitman arm. So when you put it on, you just line it up with those notches, and then it'll go on the way you had it off. So just when you're pulling this out, just keep the wheel straight inside the car. Make sure the wheels are straight here. So when this is in the straight position, the arm's going to be sitting like that, basically straight to the back of the car. And if you're getting a new box, out of the box, this new steering box should be positioned this way, so you'll be able to just drop the new box in, and as long as your wheels are straight, you can slide this on and it'll go right on. Alright, so our Pitman arm is on. I got the hoses back on, steering shaft, everything's good to go. Next, I'm just gonna put the fans on and throw my intake back on, and then I'm gonna leave it in the air, fill it up, try to bleed any air out, then I'll drop it down and take it for a drive. But while I'm at it, I've been getting a lot of questions about my intake, so I figure I'll give you a quick run through on what I did here. Basically, I got everything from intakehoses.com. I'll put the link in the description below. But this is just a 4-inch aluminum pipe. I think when I bought it, it was a 24-inch piece. I just cut it down. And then they sell all this. They sell the pipe, they sell the clamps. These are just 4-inch 90-degree rubber elbows. I got a 45 here. Another little piece of pipe here. Another 90-degree. And then I made a 4-inch hole in the passenger side battery bay there. And then underneath I have the filter, and this is actually where I have it's pretty crusty. I gotta change the filter. I had a water sock on here before, then when I did the engine bay painting I had to pull this filter out and the sock was all messed up, so I just didn't put it back on. But I actually have my intake air temperature sensor outside the engine bay here just to read the cooler temps, and same thing, just the 4-inch pipe comes out of the 90, the filter screws right onto that. So it's a really simple setup. I'll post the link to the site below. They have plenty of different size pipes and bends and elbows, so you could definitely make something that'll fit your car perfectly. Alright, so I got everything back together. I just filled the fluid up, started it up, gave it a few turns, let the fluid settle. It's still a little bit high, but there should still be a little air in there that'll work its way out. I'm gonna go for a test drive and then I'll recheck the level, but everything looks good, no leaks. It's pretty dark under here, but so far so good. Alright, so I'm gonna get this thing on the ground and go for a test drive, and then we'll wrap this thing up. We'll see how the steering is now. Spot I was telling you about after I first rebuilt the box and put it back in, that's gone now. So it's nice and responsive, it's tight. It was just that fix, like I said, where I had to tighten down that nut on the input shaft where the steering shaft coming off the column goes in. So that just had to get snug down a little more. So that's all fixed. I fixed the leak last time. It's just a night and day difference. It's ridiculous how tight the steering is with just the factory performance close ratio box compared to like a reman box. I guess maybe it's the valving that's different, or maybe it's adjusted differently from when they rebuild it. But I mean, the steering, and I have 275s on the front of this, and I always thought because I had those tires on, it was making you know, the steering a lot heavier, and that was kind of part of it. But apparently that wasn't it at all, because once I put that other A1 box in, the steering, like I said, it was like 80s Cadillac steering. I mean, I could turn this thing with my pinky on the highway. It was like extremely easy to oversteer in corners. I mean, there was just, there was no connection to the road whatsoever. So yeah, that just goes to show that yeah, I guess reman steering boxes are in fact garbage, like I thought they were. I'm going to link down in the description the intake hoses website for my intake, because I know you guys were interested in how I built that and where I got the parts for